So before we begin today's events, we would like to extend our appreciation to our event sponsor, DML Ceilings and Louvers, for their support of today's seminar. Ladies and gentlemen, to guide us through today's program, including both the presentation by our distinguished guests, a dialogue sessions, and a Q&A at the end, we are pleased to have our Sarah Sulaiman, the convener of this seminar, and she will be moderating the sessions throughout this morning. With that, please join me in welcoming Sarah Sulaiman to take over the program.
Hi, good morning. Welcome, and thank you for making it in this rainy morning. So I'm Sarah, and I'll be your moderator for today. And hello to familiar faces, and welcome. So today, our first speaker, architect Jethro, an award-winning architect, if I may introduce, and a creative director whose work bridges architecture, design research, design technologies, and the creative industries. He will be presenting a titled talk, titled Architecture and Beyond. Please, everyone, join me in welcoming architect Jethro. All right, you ready?
Can I clip it? Hi, mic test, mic test. Can everyone hear me? Okay, good. Thank you. As you can see, I do not hold a mic. Okay, so that means my hands are free, and then we all can do exercise this morning. Okay. I'm not the kind of speaker. Okay. The moment I got this invitation, first of all, thank you, Pam, for this invitation. And thank you for the sponsors, DML, okay, for sponsoring this event. When I first got the invitation, I was like, and then I just found out, Dato Yeang will be speaking, and I was like, oh my God, who am I? You know, Dato Yeang is like, I mean, I bet you guys are mostly here for Dato Yeang, and I'm just like the side character, okay, not important, okay. But he's not here yet. On the way. Okay, I got a lot of nice words for him, but I guess the summary of it is he was the kind of architect that when I was a student, we all referred to his work. Okay, and he was like probably the legend tier kind of architects. Okay, we study his work, we reference his work, and to a certain extent, I bet his work influenced how I design. But turns out all my clients can't afford it. Okay, so we won't get to see Yeang influence style in my slides. So yeah, he's not here, so I don't have to talk much about him. Okay. Oh, this is recorded, right? So okay. Without further ado, let me just go straight to the point. I'm sure Dato Yeang will be presenting something, his bioclimatic architecture, and he's gonna go very deep. Okay. Mine is kind of wide. Okay. So we give a different perspectives to how architecture can be practiced or evolve. Okay. And yesterday I was like telling my friends, today there'll be two young speakers. Okay. One is me, young by age, and the other one is Dato Ken Yeang. Okay. Okay, so the title obviously reflects how deep and wide the content will be. His title is very, very bombastic and deep. Mine is like architecture and beyond, like Buzz Lightyear to infinity and beyond. kind of thing. So, once a few years back, I actually bumped into an article talking about how architects can underpaid, how they can earn more, and what are things they can do to increase their value, that sort of things. And I realized it's most of them is like telling you to do other things, like do photography, become lecturer, become developer, become contractor. All those things can earn side income. Some of it actually lets you earn more money, that kind of thing. So it actually made me think, is it really true? And a lot of it is actually bullshit, but some of the things are true. And then I reflect, what have I been doing, and it was kind of funny and also enlightening. It was kind of funny that I end up actually doing a lot of things. Okay, then there'll be things like, hence the title, Architecture and Beyond. So architecture, a brief overview of what I'll be speaking today is that I'll feature 3 projects of what I've done, and later part to the beyond, okay, which I actually find there's actually a lot of things. As creative designers, we can actually do a lot of things, but these are some of the things that I get to do. But the ones that earn money is actually at the investment part, okay? So this is not what I'm going to speak, because this is architecture fraternity. So we're going to talk about something related to design and architecture. So I'll be talking about all the creative things that I ended up doing. The title of this talk series is like the future of architecture in Southeast Asia. Okay, I believe it's just pretty much climatic. That's all that we need to care about the Southeast Asia part, probably cultural also. But I believe architecture is something that we should be able to export out to other countries, and in a way, it can be universal as well. Okay, I guess the climatic and part, Dato Yeang will be touching on it, and I'll be talking about all the other things that make architecture more universal and accessible and beyond. Okay, so a bit about myself. I'm the middle guy. Okay, we are Birch architects. Okay, a very small setup. See, that's all you see. Okay, and so I'll be speaking about a few projects, 3 projects specifically. Okay, I just need to show you 3 projects so that you think I'm not like some crazy guy doing a lot of other crazy things. Okay, later you know. So I start off with 3 projects first. So there's this project called the Leperona Gardens. Okay, but pretty much everyone calls it the butterfly because it looks like a butterfly derived from the logo of this business unit of the developer. And in 2018, he actually won the PAM Silver Award for multiple residents. The original design was actually like this, 3-story. And for me, it pretty much looks like the StarCraft barracks. That was what came to my mind and when I designed it. And it was approved because the client said, well, looks very Transformers. Okay? If you're into Transformers, this is more Gundam than Transformers. And the site was very simple, 110 units, and there will be units facing the road, and there will be other units facing the park. Okay, so the units facing the road are like this. Back then the client asked me, "Hey, how you build the roof?" Then I'm like, that time I was like 2 years experience, and deep in my heart I was like, "If Hardy can do it, we can do it lah. This kind of things also need to ask me, meh?" Then later I found out, shit, somehow it's concrete, and it's not easy to curve the concrete like that. And everyone thought it's going to be like metal cladding, but no. And the roof is actually metal roof inside, it's not like the whole thing concrete and the waterfall collect in the middle, like KLIA. But it's actually metal roof, okay? So we need to figure out how to internalize all the gutters and make it work. So floor plan, I'm not going to talk much about the floor plan. Basically, all the living spaces and the the master bedroom faces the front, okay, because the frontage is at the main road there. And there's the, yeah, so these are some of the details. Oh, by the way, this project was done in my previous firm, Archi Center, okay. I better say that before Dato Yeang comes in. So they have to use a steel mold for this. You can't use timber mold and do 110 units. I mean, for me, the complexity of this project is to do, I mean, you see this easily in bungalows, 1 unit, okay, 1 unit bungalow. But to do this for 110 units, the amount of consistency you need to, site control for this is a bit different. Okay, that's where the complexity is. And yeah, it's shapes like a butterfly, stings like a bee, and the other units, the other type of units faces the garden. Okay, hence you see that the master bedroom and the living hall is actually behind. Okay, this is the garden. Okay, this was taken like 5 years after CCC. Okay, so you see it's very lush and green. And those who bought the units facing the garden, I think it's really worth it. Okay, actually won the Best Landscape Award in 2013, something like that. Okay, and as usual, the landscape didn't really get the brief, did something like that, and very different from the building. So that was the first project I get to do with my previous firm. And then later when I set up my firm, Verge Architects, the client actually invited me back to do their last parcel. Okay, so this was just now was the first parcel, and this is the last parcel. The alpha and omega, the beginning and the end of their development. And at first I thought, okay, it's 100 units of semi-D terrace house and bungalows. Okay, and it ends up pretty much like this. But the funny thing is the title of this project is called Isle of Fantasia. Okay, and what? Isle of Fantasia, but then your design looks so boxy. The first thing that the client, when they invited me for the first meeting, the first thing he says is, I know our title is like very Isle of Fantasia, you should be doing something like a very magical, very creative, very like out of this world. But we have 2 things. And then I was like, okay, good. You really appreciate my design. You really like my design. And then, finally you call me back and get to do your project. And then, bam, I got 2 requirements. Number 1, no curves. Number 2, has to be cost friendly. Okay, so wow, that's really I thought you liked me for the sexy design. Okay, then this is what people would tend to imagine. Fantasia, magical, out of this world, and it's actually a failed project, and probably at least give them a castle or something. Okay, but obviously I'm not going to do this. This is not Southeast Asia. So fantasy is what most of us imagine to be like this, but I ended up fantasy that. Okay, so what happened was I actually convinced the client. There's this thing trending and this thing called blind box. Where crazy people nowadays actually buy it. And it's not cheap, 100 ringgit. And then the best part is you don't even know what you get. Okay, I mean you get it's shown at the side of the box. You get 6 of it, and then you have some special edition thing lah. Okay, but you spend 100 ringgit and you don't know exactly which one you get. Sometimes you get 3 of the same thing, 2 of the same thing, and then you need to figure out how to exchange with other people. Oh, Dato Yeang is here. Okay, so I want the concept to be something like this. Instead of having the word Fantasia to be splattered all around the facade of the building, what if Fantasia is something that is internalized? Okay, imagine it's a box, but when you open the box, it's like It's like the blind box itself. When you open it, the excitement, the sensation, the fulfillment is actually not knowing what's inside, and then you open it, wow, I get this, you know, and that becomes the experiential journey of the concept. Okay, so like I say, it's going to be like a blind box, you know, got blind, got box, you know, and it's just a very simple, very, very. If you look at it, it's very protective. You know, you don't see Fantasia at all, but the Fantasia is actually inside. Okay, that was me. Okay, it wasn't Photoshop. It was we shot for 2 days straight, and yeah, I'm all dried up, and I look so thin. And you see, basically, it's just going to be something very boxy and repetitive and no Fantasia element. But where the Fantasia is actually is like the secret garden kind of approach, whereby when you open the door, the first thing you see is the secret garden, and all the spaces actually look into the garden. Okay, this is the terrace house, and this is the semi-D, and you see all the spaces are designed to look into the garden, and this is the bungalow unit. The screen is here. So the bungalow unit is the one most luxurious one, whereby you open the double swing door, and straight away you have the vista straight to the garden. Okay. The garden also becomes an area, a space where you can explore different sort of extensions. Okay. You can extend first floor, you can extend it into a double volume, and so all the units are actually equipped with this potential. We offer the buyers. Before the construction, I mean during the construction, they can actually upgrade the building. Okay, so it's in a way flexible. You can have another room, another 2 rooms into the building. And since it's during the construction, the cost is actually very cheap. You know, like for less than 10,000, you can have an additional room. Okay, compared to you do it yourself after CCC, and then you have to submit all over again. Okay, so this is the rear facade of the bungalow units. This is a video of the project that we took. Oh, a word for the sponsors. You see the ceiling there? It's actually by DML. Okay, so it's very beautiful. It's a timber pattern, and they did a very good job. No funny things at site. Okay, so yeah, DML. Okay, the next project is it's called a sail. Okay. If you have been to KLIA, you probably, and you go holiday, you probably see it there. We were involved in the facade design. Okay, so this is the original design that by the previous architect, and the client actually find it like not the sail enough. Okay, but it has its merits actually. It's a building consists of 9 towers. Okay. And you're looking at 61 stories up to 68 at the highest point. And the one on the left is the previous design, and what we did was on the right. Okay. So this is a video that shows how we transform the facade into the new design. This was done for the launching of Tower M Tower. Okay, so the previous design was actually very geometrical, not futuristic enough, and the client actually wanted something more futuristic. And one of the project managers was like, "Hey, not bad. It looks like a design from Zaha Hadid." And I was like, "Oh yes." And of course, it's nowhere there. The strength of Zaha Hadid is convincing the client to do all these things, and it actually gets built. This one not yet built, so nothing to be shout about yet. The height of the building is a bit taller than Burj Al Arab. As I said before, it consists of 9 towers. Okay, the first tower to actually got the design approved is actually the one at the one with the blue color infinity stone there. It was approved because the client said, "Wow, it looks like the infinity stone, the space stone in Avengers." So whenever the client see me, it was like, "Oh, the Marvel guy come." Then after that, there is a link bridge joining all the 9 towers. Okay, I convinced them to rename it to the Celestial Ring. Okay, and then there's an orb there. It ends up being labeled as the Celestial Orb. So during meeting, it's like, "Have you done the designs for the Celestial Ring?" Yes, Mr. Architect, we have done the structural design there. So it's kind of cool. And the challenge of this building is, how a kind of like straight floor plan all the way up, we need to figure out how to make it look curvy and not so rigid. Okay, so if you look at the section of the building, it's actually a straight floor plan up. Okay, except at the center here, we actually have the units facing the sea to be slightly longer. Okay, so by default, it's actually like the second tower here. It looks very straight, and then what you want to achieve is actually on the right here. And we need to figure out how to bend the shape in such a way, but we can't bend too much because it's a functional tower. And how to bring some of the elements from ground up. Okay, again, it's a potential for DML here. And there is this. It consists of 9 towers surrounding a mall. Okay, on top of the mall, there's this convention center. Okay, and the convention center there, at some point, they wanted to redesign the convention center, and that was the point where AI started to come out. Okay, 2002, 2003. Okay, and our team did something that is actually done in 3D. Okay, instead of a seashell, the client wanted a seashell. Okay, it was very simple. I wanted a seashell, literal. Okay, so we have to design a seashell. And rather than the image you saw just now, it was a literal seashell. We want to interpret it in such a way, the seashell open and reveals the pearl, so that it adds more value to the building, that sort of thing. Then at the same time, we explored AI to find certain more solutions to it, and this was done using Midjourney in 2023. So obviously it's a seashell, you have to biomimicry, figure out the structure, and these are all AI-generated permutations of what a seashell building can look like. And it gave us many options, all done in 2 hours. Okay, and how the roof will look like on the side. And from there, we derive certain principles. Okay, for example, the roof doesn't have to be a roof by itself. It can be designed all the way down to the ground. And the second principle is you can actually have a roof above the roof, rather than just one roof by itself. And so we presented that, and then we presented our option. And the funny thing is, the client was like, "Hey, go back to the previous slide there. You see the one on the bottom left here? This one. Okay, I like this. Why? Because it looks like their company logo." Then I was like, what? You know, I've spent so much time on the 3D and everything. In the end, you just want something like this. Then, okay, AI 1, Jethro 0. But the good thing is, from there we know that what client wants, okay? Because if not, we'll be keep changing the 3D and changing, and then we are going nowhere, and then the client doesn't know what they want. But with this, actually, we at least have some solution for. I mean, we have some options for them to choose from, so we can develop further from this. But later on, they find another piece of land and then want to transfer the convention center to another land. So, so that was the 3 projects that I'm going to present, that I've presented. Now we are starting to go to all the crazy parts, okay? So I participate in a lot of competitions. One of them, this was in 2012, and it was the grand prize winner for the Malaysian Young Architect Award. And it was a building, I call it the aerodrome. What it does is it uses the recycled material of the airplanes to be used as the facade of the roof of the building, which is pretty much brought down to as the facade as well. So, and then there's all these green strategies to make sure it's not hot and collect rainwater and that kind of thing. Then there's this another project, not project, there's this competition called Evolo, you know, where people design skyscrapers that you don't get built, but they just want the idea, okay? And this was actually done in 2013. It got shortlisted. And what it does is, you know, if you drive down the North-South Highway, you see those mountains being, limestone mountains being mined, okay? And then it looks ugly like this. And I was like, what if we can, you know, stage a protest, and then we try to save the mountains, and then, but the mountains are so ugly, what can we do? What if we can actually build onto the mountain, that sort of thing. It's just an idea, okay? Don't crucify me. And it's cannot be done, actually, cannot be done. Not with our current technology, but it's just an idea, you know, how in the future is it possible to save our mountains that are being mined until it looks half dead like that, okay? And there was another project that is, after the next year, we participated in again, and then we call this the Aquarium Trinity, okay? What it does is, it is a structure underwater for you to plant coral reefs, okay? Because some areas, coral reefs are dying due to tourism and that kind of thing. But coral reefs are being planted in such a way where it's actually on a flat land. I mean, on a flat, horizontally. But what if coral reefs can be planted vertically? So we actually design a building that you can actually, different height of the sea, different depth of the sea, you have different corals, and then therefore you plant that level of coral at that level of the structure. And then you have that ring that moves up and down, and then you have a harvester that actually takes it and then brings it to another place to reseed the corals somewhere else. Okay, so those are crazy ideas. And then PAM has this future city competition whereby we design cities for the future, you know. So what if we can live underwater like this, you know, with a dome, and then inside there is like probably like the Chinese Tulou concept whereby it's actually circular, and then inside at the center there is all the green spaces and the community area, and people live at the side. Okay. Again, bring back the thing here because it's all underwater. And this is very crazy. It's called the Sky City, and this is a very capitalist approach towards architecture. You know, what if we provide a floating ring, and then the buildings can fly, and companies up to don't know how many billion valuation, if you can afford a skyscraper, you can actually float your building up and park it into the ring, you know. So it's a very capitalist approach. Different towers, one belong to IBM, one belong to Microsoft, that sort of thing. So it's a very democratic approach towards architecture. And if the city were to expand, how will you expand? Will you expand to be a bigger ring, or you have smaller circular rings that are interconnected to each other? I don't have such time. Okay, so then this is another sky city that is a very socialist approach. What if the government likes to control every single thing in your life, and then they can actually go and, designate, this is what, that is what. Everything is totally controlled, like Singapore. And then, so some people say it looks like the mothership in Protoss, StarCraft. And, like what I said just now, again, I like to put all the nice things at the center. You have the commercial area, and then you have all the green and all the water, agriculture, and all the parks. And these are the sector where you put the industrial sector, residential and commercial. Okay, all the other utility things is at the ship itself. Okay, all this didn't win anything, but it's just kind of like for fun. And buildings like this are, probably inspired by a bonsai plant turned into a building. So I've been doing all this kind of crazy. What if Dubai were to have structures that shields the buildings or the inhabitants from sandstorms, and those areas are safe enough to have agriculture and greenery inside. Okay, floating ships. So it's all ideas that I have in mind. That what if we can use it in such a way to tell stories, So all this I've been generating all these years, and it becomes ideas in my idea jar. And that comes to the point where, what if we create a world that we can actually house all these competition entries that actually didn't work or didn't win anything? It never gets built anyway, okay? So that's where we venture into world building. And I was like, what if we create a platform where everyone can actually upload their ideas, upload their designs? If your lecturer banned your idea, don't worry, it has a place in this world. Then, but ultimately it didn't really work out because I couldn't figure out how to monetize it, how to reward it. If you are an artist come in to do certain works, how will you get paid? That kind of thing. How will you get the reward? So far, it relies on everyone uploading things, and then no one gets paid. It doesn't work. And we have a core team of people that actually does all these things. And you have artists, 3D sculpture, people who handle social media, and there's a story writer. I'm the guy who does everything else. This was done during pandemic. Okay, this is a Zoom meeting during pandemic, and we were figuring out how to create this world. And so we created this world called Neo Terra. Okay, Neo is in Latin, it means new earth. Okay, new earth means Neo Terra. And we need to create a story and make all these things work. How to make cities fly and all those things. How to live underwater. So we what if there's an asteroid that hit Earth, and then there's some metallic substance that terraform Earth all over. And from you've Earth 250 million years kind of look like this on the kind of look like anyway, the one on the top left, okay? And over time, after how many million years, the continents float, okay? It's called the continental drift. And so it was like, what if the asteroid hits at the Pacific Ocean? I don't want to anger any nations or any country, so I just put a neutral place. It hits the Pacific Ocean, and it pushes all the continents into one place. And then the direct opposite is actually Africa. So what if, again, sorry I say too much, but if. So all the continents actually merged towards Africa, and we created this world called Neo Terra. Okay? And Earth was terraformed. You see new terrains, new cities, you see deserts that are very different climate, and then you see all the asteroid hit places, and you see terrains you've never seen before, floating mountains and that sort of thing, very Avatar. And mountains that are very sharp-edged and very different shape than what we've seen before. And then from there, humans rise again, and then we populate the cities, but with the knowledge that we have behind. You know, if as mankind, if we have the knowledge that we have now, and we get to rebuild Earth, redo our cities, redesign our buildings, what will it look like? Okay. So this project allows us to imagine all these kind of things that we wanted to do, but cannot be done because the city is flying. And we create our own transport system. I mean, not say transport system, but design our planes. We create culture for the people living in the cities, and this is the biggest site plan I've ever drawn. It's like a continent plan, okay. And then we have factions of countries here. I mean, everywhere. And this is where we have all the stories, okay? And this is where we have all the design of the cities being placed at all these kind of countries and places. So what we ended up doing was I created a grand timeline for all these events, okay? And pretty much like Star Wars, okay? Star Wars, but the size of the scale of things is, if you look at the trilogy, is about here. This tree area is one trilogy. You know, this is like one Star Wars trilogy, one Lord of the Rings trilogy is this size. And then we have created a world this big. And then we slowly want to fill in the world with all the love stories, all the wars and things like that. So far, the story writer has written like 3 novels and 7 novellas. Okay, these are pre-AI, you know. Nowadays, you just prompt the AI to do things, but before that, he actually wrote everything. And the thing about AI is, we realize AI will give you a very nice story, but it will never be like, "Luke, I am your father." Okay, it doesn't give you the kind of plot twist. It just gives you a very nice story. Okay, and again, the guy was serious. He's a chemical engineer, but then he writes novels. Okay, and this is one of the novels that he has written, Crimson Genesis. And then we create our own monsters. Okay, because Earth was terraformed, and then we call it the Terracons. You know, Neo-Terra, and then you know how this metallic substance changed the world. I mean, changed the animals inside. You know, then we design all these kind of monsters, and then the evolutionary traits. And being an architect, you know, I have to draw these kind of things because you just have to draw elevation, that kind of thing, and do specification, and then do specifications, you know, and this is the ultimate evolution of this monster, and then the size of everything when you comparison, and we also create many other monsters, and this is the point of time where, and then because they are monsters, we need to fight the monsters, so it end up become like Pacific Rim kind of thing, where you create mechanized weapons to fight monsters, and we also have our like Gundam-like kind of characters, and this is one of the 2 stories that has been published, you know, and how the mechs, they evolve, you know, Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3, Iron Man, like that, and at some point we were like, hey, what if the terracotta itself becomes like, you know, the design itself influences architecture. It influences the mechs. Okay, like Minangkabau style roof. It's an inspiration by the Minangkabau horns thing. You know, what if it can be that? And slowly we start to piece all the things together. And this is one of the end scene of the story. Okay, and these are all hand drawn, pre-AI, and it was an A1 piece of artwork, Photoshop colored. And again, we have a lot of monsters, and it was about the time where Pokemon Go was a thing, you know. You know, the Pokemon Go was like the game that it moves community. People actually move around, chasing Pokemons, and you see crazy people. At some point, my office was a gym. And then you'll see a lot of people down there like gathering, like, shit, are they here to like, did I issue CCC wrongfully or what? Everyone there is trying to stage a protest, but just found out it was a gym. My office is a gym. So there'll be people there battling Pokemon below my office. And that comes to adult toys. Okay, it's not the kind of adult toy that you're thinking. This leads to adult toys. So we were the monsters that we designed. We were like, what if we use this Pokemon as a proof of concept? You know, what if all these cute things like a normal animal, you actually mechanize it, and then we did all this artwork. You know, I think the success of this artwork is that people get to see the comparison. The original design of a monster is like this, and then what we do is mechanize it until it looks so ganas and powerful. And being architects as well, we have to we have to do sketches, do all the front and elevation, do all the detailing and all the specs. And like I said just now, it was an adult toy thing. Adult toy as in Iron Man, okay, and Royal Selangor, okay, not the other adult toy. So my friend who has some connection with China say, hey, let's do some statue, you know. Let's do the statue of the monster, the red color monster just now, Gigaranos. Okay, then I was like, which is this? Then I was like, no one knows about us. At that point of time, when we launched all these monsters, we were like 10 followers only. Okay, but by the time we launched all those Pokemon monsters, mechanized monsters, it boosts us up to 30,000 followers. I was like, okay, don't do this lah. It's all about making money, right? So we do the Pokemon one. Okay, we do this. Okay, people know this, people might buy. Okay, the red color one, no one's gonna know, no one's gonna buy. And again, my friend told me, very simple. You just do all the sketches, and then China there will settle everything. Good. I've been doing architecture all my life. I've been doing architecture for the past 10, 15 years. It was never easy, you know. We have to go through all the shit and go contractor and then get every single detail. Rainwater downpipe also we have to control, and then here I get to just do some sketches, and then China will settle for me. And okay, do sketches, my forte lah. And you know, I thought it's gonna be like just show this kind of thing. And when I do the sketches, the problem is when I do the sketches, being an architect, I couldn't rest when I knew that my elevation and my top plan and my roof plan is not the same. You know, got discrepancy and what. So I ended up, instead of just doing sketches, I did the SketchUp of the whole thing. In the end, I did everything myself. And this is actually SketchUp, by the way. Okay. So whenever my staff or my interns tell me, boss, cannot do this curve like that, so hard, I'm like, don't bullshit me. Okay. If I can do this, you can do anything in life. And the details that we have, some of the Instagram marketing materials, and the one on the left is actually a render. The one on the right is the final product, the final prototype product. Okay, it was a challenging thing for us because we only know architectural renderers. We do not know toy renderers. You know how to have all this dirt and all these details inside. Okay, reflective surface of glass, semi-translucent, all these things. So I have to engage someone in India to do this, and China you don't really send a few sketches to China and they solve everything for you. I ended up have to color Pantone every single color of the thing, and then prototype the whole thing ready. Then only China can eyeball, copy the whole thing. China cannot take an image and copy. Okay, they can take a product, dismantle it, and then they copy directly. That's what they're good at. Okay, something that I discovered the hard way. Wasted 1 year over there, and this is a 3D printed version before color, before painting, and this is the photography images of the final product to be sold. For once, I feel like some developer because I sold an image. Okay, I just sent out an image and people pre-order this thing already. You know, it's like you look at the brochure of a house, SPA sign, no house one. Okay, and then you collect all the deposits, and then you fund the whole project. So we get to do that. I was like, this is a very different way of making money. Never done this before. All this while I have to like beg for payment lah, and then want to sue people for payment, that kind of thing. This one people so willingly give me money, and some of the, it looks glamour, but actually it's us doing this goofy thing. The scale of it, we need to figure out the scale of it, okay? 30 cm times 30 cm times 30. So happens as compared to Stanley. So the second project was, I just show you a bit because I managed to document a bit of the work, from a bit of a model into the details. Okay, this is the second project. You see how they actually mass produce in China. Okay. So like I have an army of killer tortoise like that. It's actually LED lighted. And then I have to design the box. And then I have to design I forgot what's the term for this brown color box thing also. Okay. And what I thought was like just something to break out of architecture for fun, just give a few sketches and I'll get this kind of thing. Ended up, I have to treat it like an architectural project. Every single detail, I have to figure it out myself and get it done. Like holding a contractor hand in China like that. Okay. Of course, all these things are kind of like Pokemon related, and we didn't pursue it any further because we infringed on the rights of Pokemon, the copyright of Pokemon, okay, which belongs to Nintendo. So we didn't. End of the day, we just want to build our own world. So that sidetracked us for 4 years. Okay. Later on, there's this NFT hype. Then we was like using this. What if we can create our own masks? Okay. Our own mask for the characters inside Neoterra universe. Okay. Then this was actually all hand-drawn, Photoshop colored, and we create different attributes to the NFTs. And for the different characters inside Neoterra. Okay. Then we realized, and this was actually right at the precipice of time whereby AI started to come out, and it was like, it's not efficient. I spent nearly like 20 minutes for one NFT mask, and I actually need to do 10,000 masks. It doesn't make sense. I have lost all my extra time after work, no time for shopping, no time for anything. So we just end up doing this. Then AI came out where with a click of a button, you can actually replicate something even better than this. So we were like, okay, scrap the idea. Oh, so this is also where it fits in, the character that pilots the frame that fights the Terracon that lives in that city. And we also did other NFTs that somehow, using AI. So those Terracons, we create this cute baby version of those Terracons, so we call it the Cubicon. And so these are all AI generated. Scrap it off because it still looks very noisy, visually speaking, and not refined. Then wasted half a year. And then as AI develops, we try to create different NFTs. We created this thing called the Cutobots. Okay. This was probably half a year after that. And then the design is actually more refined already. Okay. So we have those Phytobots, all those all the animal-inspired bots and things. They have their own world. We create their own world for each type of bots, and we create the map for the bots as well. Can you please play the video?
Cutobots.
Okay. Again, it was scrapped because we were thinking, end of the day, if Neoterra is what we're going to build, do we really want to waste our time doing all these cute things that doesn't really fit into the world? You have to create another parallel world just to have all these things. So we were like thinking, okay, whatever we do, we have to do it for the glory of Neoterra. Let's not get sidetracked and do all these things that, although it might earn money, but. So what happened recently was the story writer that was working with us, he came out with the trading card version of this thing. Using the characters, using the storyline, using the events inside Neoterra universe, he used it to create something like, like Magic the Gathering kind of a card game. Okay, so we were gonna launch this. Actually, we can launch it anytime because everything is there already. We have to figure out, all the character power balance and all this, how much each card costs, and then figure out how to level the playing field. No one card can beat all card, that kind of thing. All the characters being utilized, and he figured out everything. He did everything using AI, and then I'm like, I don't have to do anything. It was the first time actually, you have a staff so good, you don't even need to monitor him, and he can do all the work for you, generate money for you, that kind of stuff. And again, the characters from this city was actually used here, and the characters for this city called the Solaris Empire is actually used here for all the cards. Okay, and these are all done by one single engineer. Okay, engineer, and printed it. Actually tested the game, and it's actually very nerd very nerd. Okay, of course the ultimate goal is to turn it into a gaming, into a real app game. Okay, this is pretty much on the board. Okay, so if we can spend time on all these things, can AI be used for architecture? Okay, I've been giving talks on AI and in architecture. If you want to know how to use AI, you can scan this QR code, and it leads to a YouTube video at PAM Northern Chapter there, where I gave a talk on how to use AI. Okay, and basically using Midjourney and ChatGPT, Gemini, that kind of talk in detail. But here I'm just giving examples of how it's being applied. Okay, so again, using the Evolo shortlisted entry, I was like, this was done in 2013. In 2023, 10 years later, how, if I can use AI to redo all this, what will it look like? And then these are all AI generated. Okay, took some time to get the prompt right, but this is how we envision the buildings being incorporated into the limestone mountains. Okay, it can even do section. This was done in 2023. The section on the right. Okay, so as AI move forward, I think AI is kind of like at its peak at this point, because after this AI never improved. This is 2024. Okay, and this is the kind of scenery that it generates. Okay, in the limestone city and how AI views it from inside out as well. Then, if you have generated enough AI images, like 50,000, you kind of realize that there is this trend, or there's this pattern that you see, and then I also start to realize, what's the point of generating so many images? So I was like, what if there's a pattern that I can unlock and arrange it into usable information, and then publish a book out of it? So we ended up doing something that is a bit fun for our office. We have all these AI-generated images. What if we can use it to reverse design a building? Okay, and I realized that's actually how I design things. When I design, I have the end in mind. I always design, the first thing I have is a killer perspective. From there, I have the plans. Then I massage with the perspective, and I massage with the plans. That's how I do. Most of us are actually taught to design from the bubble diagram, then to the floor plan, and then in the end, you get a building like that. I work the other way around. Okay, so this, I use some of our fresh grads and some of interns, and as a training session for them, if I have all these images, can you design a building out of it? Okay, So this is where I started to train young architects to design with the end in mind. And what if the sketch can be converted into, nowadays sketches can be converted into 3D rendering, okay? You don't have to wait like 8 hours for 3D to render. And so we want to do something that's called related to bonsai, bonsai architecture and ID. So we have, this is one of the first projects that we did, the bonsai by the lake, okay? Again, when you enter the building, this is what greets you, and these are all the spaces. All these are turned into a book, an e-book, by the way, and how bonsai is actually incorporated into all the spaces. And then there we have the final floor plan and the first floor plan and ground floor plan here, okay? How it relates to the lake, how the functional spaces relates to the lake, the master bedroom and all the living room facing the rear of the building to the lake. And then our second project that we tried was the Black Studio. Okay, it is, we imagine that there's this client, he's into photography, he's into bonsai, and so he's a very niche photographer whereby he only photographs women, okay, for example. So imagine those models and what come into the building, park the car, and then it's all walled up. No one can see who came in, or no one can see who come out from the car. That kind of exquisite place. And then you have the building where you have all the functional photography space, which is in the gray area here, and then the photographer lives on the blue color area here. Okay, and then as you can see at the bottom, it's very hard to control the cursor. So this is where you park the car, and then you come in there. This is where the model will stay, and this is where the photography is done. Okay, so on the left here you see all these photographer kind of equipments and studio. And the green color there is where the bonsai garden is, and this is where the interaction between the photographer and the model becomes poetic. And the kind of steamy bathroom that you have, and makeup areas, photography areas. This is where the photographer does all the Photoshop. And it was just a simple project I asked my intern to do, but then he took it a bit too seriously and generated a SketchUp and then figure out everything. So turns out that intern, he also likes photography, and okay, such passion. And the next project was actually a hotel, okay. Again, all these are AI generated, okay, and it's not a real project. And this is called the Shizuka Yama Hotel. In Japanese, it means tranquil mountain. Shizuka is tranquil, Yama is mountain. And this is the lobby. When you come in, this is how the bonsai greets you, the waiting area. This is the spa area entrance. And this is the spa area. How bonsai can be, this is AI generated. It's an infinity pool. Oh, look at the mountains. So beautiful. I nearly thought it's real. And that is 2023, And this is where the chalets are located opposite the lake. Okay. So how, again, bonsai can be incorporated into a hotel room design. And the hotel lobby and then the site plan here. The commercial facilities are actually on this side, and then they walk through a long bridge and have the chalets and the mountain, foot of the mountain here. Okay, and there's this restaurant called Yama Tei. Yama means mountain, Tei means restaurant. So Yama Tei means mountain restaurant. So we have pictures of mountains and things. So we compile everything into an e-book. We have about 11 projects inside there, and so you see these are some of the preview of the books insight on how we can incorporate bonsai into architecture and ID. And we don't just stop at bonsai, obviously, because there are so many other interesting materials that we can explore. You know, what if we can do on the rust material, marble, you know, concrete, and all these things. Okay, so we are. Next one's probably is going to be concrete, and this is a short video. We started to explore using AI-generated songs.
Patterns in the stone, shapes of life alone.
So AI wrote the lyrics, and then it sang the song.
Elements we've grown,
Okay, no, not me.
inspiration, soul, stillness in the heart, mastering the art, every piece apart, designed from the start. Bonsai blessings to you, harmony in view. Bonsai blessings to you, Zen energy too.
Okay, so that's just a short video. We just want to have fun and we try to get the whole office involved in this bonsai thing. So we started to visit, you know, all those bonsai nurseries and get everyone a bonsai. You have to take care of bonsai. By the way, out of all these, only 2 survive. Okay. Probably the trick is to buy the ones with the big trunk one. Don't buy those flimsy ones. That one can last longer. Okay. And we start to upload everything into Instagram, and we launched the book half a year ago, and then you can actually buy it in Amazon. Okay, this ebook, and the price is fixed. You know, $12.99. I can't make it any cheaper, so that's probably something we can learn from our minimum scale of fees, the lamp boss. I want to make it 10, but it just doesn't allow, because due to the number of pages, you have to charge at this price. Wow, so professional. Then, yeah, you can scan this to the Amazon page. Okay. Music. We have this music album to complement the reading of the book. Okay. Again, these are all AI generated. This is one of the songs. This is actually the Rooted in Time. Okay. Obviously, we don't stop at just one album. We have done a lot. Okay, all under Neoterra. Okay, A New World, Atlas Sky, all these things. Okay, recently we just launched Magical Winter because now it's Christmas. So again, you can actually scan all this, and you can play it for free in Spotify or YouTube. Okay, so with that, I end the talk. Okay, thank you very much. Bonsai blessings to you.
Thank you, Jethro. I think it took us in a whole journey from the Labubus to the Star Wars, and then you got me at Gundam, but then we ended at Bonsai. Alright, we're gonna go for a short break. Before that, we're gonna take a quick group photo together with Salam. So Salam, which is the direction? Okay, everyone, anybody want to come to the front? Hello, hi, good afternoon. I hope everyone had a good break, and welcome back. I have our second speaker on stage today. Is Dato Dr. Yeang, who is internationally recognized as a pioneer in ecological and sustainable architecture, and known for redefining buildings as integrated living ecosystem. So this morning, Dr. Yeang will be speaking on designing architecture as a nature-based constructed ecosystem. Dr. Yeang asked me to say his mom loves him. All right, and so welcome, Dr. Yeang.
Hello, yes, thank you for coming. I I'm afraid the first 30 minutes will be theory. So if it puts you to sleep or you get bored, please, you can go home or go off. Okay. This is what I've been doing, which is trying to do something for the planet. I call it saving the planet by design. And my contention is that we need to rethink how we design our buildings and how we make them. And I'm going to explain to you why. Right now, our human society is crowded onto a boat in our cities. And the boat is in a turbulent sea. The sea is the endangered planet. Now worse, the boat has a leak. That's the environmental crisis. A lot of people deny that there's a leak. Like Trump in the US, he thinks a lot of nonsense. But this does show that we don't have very much time left. I think your grandchildren are the one that you have to think about. So how do we rescue ourselves? To rescue our boat, you need to have information and directives on where to go. And we need the means and equipment to get us there. So the action we need is information is like my contention is ecology, which is environmental biology. And why ecology? Ecology is the baseline indicator of the health of our planet. Whatever the state of our planet is ecology's indicator. The beast equipment is what I call biomimicry. We have to imitate the ecosystem so that the relationship between our built environment and nature is not technology in nature, but nature in nature. And in a nutshell, this slide are the premises for what we should be doing. Now, this is the Titanic. As you know, the Titanic sank 60,000 feet below the sea. If you were on a Titanic and you're not going to hit an iceberg, you would quickly go to the captain's bridge and redirect the ship. So this is what all of you must be doing. All of us must be doing, not just me. The trouble is that very few of us are doing this. And so, as mentioned earlier on, the information and directives we need is ecology, that's environmental biology, and I'm going to start by talking a little bit about ecology. These are the 5 factors we need to consider in ecological design. Humans, our human society, hydrology, which is the water environment, nature, which is everything around us, the natural environment, energy systems, because we as human beings are addicted to energy. You cannot survive without energy. Then, of course, our built systems and artifacts, which is everything that we make and do as human beings. So I'm going to start with nature. Ecology sees the Earth as covered by this thin film called the biosphere. Within the biosphere, there are ecosystems in nature, ecosystems as units in the biosphere. Within this ecosystem are communities of plants, habitats, population, organisms, and they all exist within the biome and the biosphere. And the ecosystems consist of biotic, which is organic, biological constituents, and the abiotic, which is the physical environment, the soil, the geology, and the climate, acting together to form a whole. So you learn this if you study ecology, and that is the most saddest thing for me, because very few architects are eco-literate. Schools should start teaching ecology, but they're not doing that, because once you understand ecology, then you realize that within nature, there are a lot of processes that take place which is not visible to the human eye, but it takes place. And so anything you do to nature, even though you cannot see it, you're affecting the environment. The soils, the animal flora, the plant communities, and so forth. So the process of designing nature to nature is what you call biomimicry. Biomimicry means imitate the properties of nature to make our built environment nature-based systems. So biomimicry is crucial to ecological design. So the process like this. The ecosystem, please forgive me because for the next 40 slides, 20 slides will be theoretical. And so, if you get bored, you get pissed off with me. I don't mind if you get walked off. So the ecosystem is a prototype for mimicry. Mimicry means you imitate the properties of ecosystem to make a constructed ecosystem. So our new built environment should be what are called human-made ecosystem or constructed ecosystem. And so the ecosystem prototype would have biotic, abiotic constituents. Biomimicry is the process of imitating ecosystem attributes. You either replicate it, or you imitate it, or you emulate it. You can augment, or you can supplement it. And the objective is to design as creating human-made hybrid ecosystems. So I started to list down what are the properties of ecosystems that we have to replicate or emulate, augment or supplement. So let's take the first one, which is biological structure. Remember earlier on I showed this diagram. You can see that ecosystems are both biotic and abiotic. And this is what makes the ecosystem unique. Now if you look into our major cities, even like Kuala Lumpur, almost 88 to 90% of our built environment is abiotic. Nature does not exist except for a few trees. And so I started to look into what exactly do we need to put back into the city. If you look at New York, for instance, on the bottom right, it is 100% abiotic. So we need to bring the biotic constituents into the built environment. It's not just putting plants, not just growing trees, but you have to integrate the two together. So I started to look at patterns in which you could build habitats in the built environment. So in planning, for instance, in Central Park in New York is in one location, although there are little squares like Washington Square, Union Square, and so forth, but it's mostly distant from the rest of the city. In terms of building form, you put it in one location, just like that. The second is what I call a spotty relationship. You have patches of greenery all over your building. In terms of planning, it's like Georgian London, where you have Bedford Square, Euston Square, Tavistock Square, Russell Square, all little green areas. Or you can have a stepping stone. Stepping stone means the greenery is not connected, close enough to be connected, so that some species can move from one patch to another patch, but not all species because of the impervious surfaces or the inorganic surfaces in between. The ideal is to link everything together. Now, the ecologically is important because once it's linked, the species can move from one part of the ecosystem to another part of the system, and then the natural resources are shared among all the species. Whereas if you go back to the previous pattern like this one, the species are isolated, and after a while, when you run out of food, the ecosystem dies. And so being connected is ecologically good. It enables a larger pool of resources to be shared, natural resources to be shared among the species. It engenders a much more stable ecosystem. Of course, the idea would be cover everything. totally integrate the vegetation, the habitats with the building form. Of course, there are variations of this. One would be what I call the spine with fingers, and these are some of the reasons why it's important. And so this is an important map, a diagram of all the ways you can put vegetation in buildings. And then on top of that, you have to link not just the vegetation in the ground, but also vertically as well. On the right-hand side are the different habitats you create within a building. You can have your green roofs, vertical greenings, you can have the green sky courts, green atriums, and so forth. And you must link not just horizontally, but vertically as well. So the whole ecology is linked, because in nature, everything is linked. As human beings, that we go on a piece of land, we cut it up to pieces, we fragment it, we put impervious surfaces, we put fences, we put roads. You know, it's like taking a cow and converting a cow into a burger. You know, we need to make it whole again. So this was a scheme we did back in 2000 and early 2000. It was a competition scheme where in Waterloo Road in Singapore, and it's an example of the spiraling system. The idea was to have a ramp of vegetation that goes all the way up, and that this is a cultural building. You have art galleries, you have restaurants, you have cafes, you have exhibition areas. And so the idea was that to have a series of sky courts within the building, and that as the ramp climbs up the building, you bridge across to the roof of the building next to you, and you green, and so in this way it becomes a device for greening the city. Of course, that's an idea, nobody's implemented it, but it was just a nice idea. So we did this in the 2005, 2006. This is the DG data center in PJ. So this time we started using green walls that start from the ground, weaves its way across one facade, goes around the back, goes around the side, the back, and back down again. And so, if you like, it is the continuous vegetated green wall, like the corridor with fingers. And this is the facade. You can zaps across. We tilted the roof a little bit to have photovoltaics. Then we became a bit more ambitious. We say, let's go back to the spiraling building. We start the vegetation from the ground. For every floor, every facade, we climb one floor, going all the way up to the top. So this was the diagram of what we wanted to do. So here it is. But this time, we put the walkway next to the vegetated area. I got this Italian friend who did this building in Milan, where he had vegetation on the facade. It's a very famous building. But to service the planters, you have to go through the apartments. Can you imagine while you're staying in your apartment, somebody walks through it and brings all fertilizers and soil. But this you don't have to, because the walkway, you can service the planters from the outside. And so it became, I call this a continuous walk. And if you stretch it out, it's about 1.3 kilometers. And I call this a linear park because you have greenery to one side. And so we did this as an inspirational drawing. And here it is completed. You can see people servicing the planters, the sunshades, and the facade at the back. And this is the building completed. It's in the Novena district of Singapore. It's the Solaris building. And what we did was that, as you can see, that yellow dotted line, the vegetation that goes around the facade, and that this is how it looks like from the side. But on the left-hand side is the lower mid-level courts, and have a rooftop garden as well. And this is what it looks on the right-hand side. Now, vegetation in buildings isn't just for decorative purposes. it serves as a phytoremediator, which absorbs the pollutants from the air and creates a healthier microclimate for that surrounding. And so this is the theory of why we put vegetation buildings. It's not just to look green, but it serves the purpose of enhancing the microclimate. This is the mid-level gardens, which is linked to the greenery. This, the rooftop garden, has a terrific view of the surrounding. And so here's the view from the top. You can see that the mid-level gardens that climbs up the way to the rooftop garden. This is the view from this one of the adjoining sites. Now, we punctuated the walkway with what are called sky courts. These are at the corners. So these are places where people can go out, they can have a cigarette, they can have their lunchtime period, or they can even have discussions there. And this one looks like of one of these sky courts. And so here's a series, it's like, I call them mini plazas. So you have the linear park, you have the series of linear plazas that work its way around the top of the building. And then we bring that vegetation all the way down to the basement. I call this an eco cell. So this way it goes down, and that's where it is on the side of the building. And here it is. You can see the walkway, the vegetation. And right at the bottom, you can put a bioswale, or you can have one of John Todd's living machines, which is for treating black water. Now, it's actually 2 blocks, which is linked by this atrium. So this is the atrium in between the 2 blocks. And the atrium has a glass roof that lets in sunlight. But on a normal day, the glass roof opens up so that if it rains, it automatically shuts. And so it's an operable glass roof. And you look up, this is what it looks like. But the atrium is not air conditioned. It's this energy saving device. We just blow cold air in, and the natural ventilation keeps the place cool. On the right hand side, you see this diagonal. It's an experimental diagonal light shaft. And if you look into the left hand photograph, you can see a little black square. That's the light shaft starts. And it cuts through the floor. This is the simulation of the daylight on the floor. Well, what it tells you and me is that the floor the middle is dark, it doesn't get enough daylight. In Germany, for instance, no desk is permitted more than 7 meters away from a window. So in Germany, all the buildings are very narrow because glass to glass is about 14 meters. But here I have very deep floor plates. I should have designed it with narrow floor plates. The simulation of the temperatures on the daylights on the right-hand side, the lux is on the right-hand side. As you know, average lighting, overhead lighting is about 300 lux, task lighting is about 600 lux. And so I still don't get sufficient daylight in the middle of the building. So that's my mistake. I should have designed differently. And this is the diagonal light shaft looking all the way down. So from some of the floors, you can actually see the street level. You can see on the street, of course, when you look up, you can see the skylight. So, it works both ways, looking up and down. And the 2 blocks are linked by bridges. So on the left-hand side is the block A, the block B, and there's the bridges that links the 2. And here's the bridge that links the 2. Now, Singapore is equivalent of LEED in Singapore. It's called Green Mark. And they have this green plot ratio that you have to have a minimum of 6. That means the greenery in the building is 6 times the footprint of the building. Now, I treat rating systems as a guide. And so for this building, we've got 12.2. We've got twice what is required. So you should never, just because the green index says you should reach this, have this, it's prescriptive, but ecological design is not prescriptive, it has to be performance-based. So back to this biodiversity. This is a scheme that we did in Putrajaya, and the little black slits are actually sky cots. At that time when they took this photograph, the greening hasn't grown in any great depth, and so these are sky cots. And I went backwards instead of continuing with the spiraling system. This is this is the stepping stone system. So one of the first things we do, and we look at the site, when we got this site, it was already cleared. The original vegetation was removed, the palm trees, even the secondary vegetation of palm trees were removed, and it's just brown soil. So we did research on which species we want to bring back. So on the left-hand side are all the faunal species we want to bring back. So that's why ecology is so important in green design. It's not just energy, it's not just water, it is species. And so if you look into biodiversity, you find that Kuala Lumpur is 2.9 degrees above the equator. It's the highest biodiverse zone in the planet. As you head towards the north, for instance, London is 52 degrees, Beijing is 39, so you can see decreasing biodiversity as you head towards the top. Now, because of the shape of the site, and because of the axis we had to keep in the middle, the building is, I call it chevron shape, just like a 2L, a cute L. I could make it symmetrical, it wasn't symmetrical, but the concept's the same. You have a drop off, you enter, and then you have two bars of office space on the left and the right of each chevron. So when we design, we start to locate habitats within the built form. We can, as you can see in the top bar, the purple color or the red pink color are the habitats on the ground, habitats on the facade, habitats within the building, habitats on the green roofs. And so creating habitats within the built form is just as important as putting habitats on the facade. So that's the first thing we do in ecological design. We try to locate habitats within the built form. The next is to do research on what faunal species particular to that locality that we want to bring back. So these are the faunal species. Because they've been cleared, they've been removed, all the vegetation removed, and all the species have gone. And this is what we as human beings are doing to every location. Third is to find out what are the flora species that will attract the fauna. Just because you put plants there doesn't mean the fauna will come. You have to be selective, select the faunal species, the floral species that attract the fauna. The fauna is indigenous to this location. And then you look at the interaction with the habitats. And that becomes the basis for you to design the habitats. So in a nutshell, this diagram is very important because it summarizes the ecological approach, how to enhance the biodiversity of the location. So biodiversity is extremely important in ecological design. But you go and ask all those green designers, in town, there are 2,200 architects registered in Malaysia, and everyone will tell you, oh yes, I do green design, Ken. But how many of them are eco-literate? As I mentioned in my first slide, ecology is crucial to ecological design, to green design, because the health of the planet is determined by the ecology of the planet. And so this is the biodiversity approach. I call it the biodiversity matrix as a basis for designing. And then this is the central promenade between the two blocks that you see earlier on. And this is the eco-cell. The vegetation goes all the way down. You can see on the right-hand side, bottom right, it goes all the way down to the basement. and the walkway next to it. Now, the eco-cell idea was originated probably about 5-8 years earlier. This was our competition entry for the Kowloon waterfront. We didn't win the competition. I think Rocco won it. I think Rocco Yim, I don't know if you know him, he's a little skinny guy, incredible designer. But what you see in the red squares are the originating idea for the eco-cell. So for me, competitions are not wasted projects. Competitions are opportunities for us to experiment, develop new ideas to advance ecological design. And we generally ask, if we do a competition, and if it's large enough, we ask the developer to sponsor us. So our competition scheme was sponsored by Sun Hong Kei. And so they paid us some money for doing this. I found out they actually sponsored 3 or 4 other architects to do the competition as well. So we call this an eco-cell. Eco-cell does 5 things. It brings vegetation from the roof all the way down to the basement to lower level, provides opportunity for rainwater harvesting, brings natural ventilation to lower floors, brings daylight, and at the bottom you can put a biosphere or a living machine. So this was the idea we developed back in, before we designed the Putrajaya building. This was 2006 or 2008. And so we couldn't use the idea straight away. It took us a while to implement it. That's why, in many ways, architecture is an old man's game, because if you're patient enough, an idea that you developed several years back, you keep in your head, you can use it again later. Then we started to see how can we experiment with sun shading. On the left-hand side is conventional sun shading. Conventional sun shading is just blades, horizontal blades. Like this building here, we have vertical blades because the sun comes from this side. They said, could there be alternative to the horizontal blades? So the idea we want to experiment with is what I call fritted glass. So that means we took glass, we fritted it. The studies from our engineers show that the fritting, which is the white pattern which is printed onto the glass, should not be more than 50%. But the glass is not butt jointed. There's a gap so that the air can flow through. And so this becomes an experimental sun shading. So we want to find out, well, does it work, Ken? So we started looking to calculate this. And on the right-hand side is the section. You can see that the fritted glass sun shading, and then inside is the inner wall. I should have put more glass on the inner wall, but that was again a mistake. We didn't do that. But you can see the fritted glass on the left-hand side, and then we had slits cut into it to give it so it doesn't look so deadly boring. And so this is the facade. But every project we do, we try to have a cultural reference. And because this is along the boulevard leading to the Prime Minister's residence, our Prime Minister's office, we want to make it look upmarket. So we took the gem, the jewel, and faceted the building to try and make it look upmarket. We took the Tenggelok of the royal families, and we took the songket pattern, which is then blasted onto the glass. And so this was a cultural reference to the building. And this is the glass. And so on the west side, we angled it to face the sun, so that actually the east facade, north facade, south facade are all different, or almost all different. So you can actually tell your orientation by looking at the building. Look at the west side, that's the west. East side is east, and so forth. And then there's this walkway in between to service the facade on the inside. And this is what looks like in the walkway. And you can see there's air gaps. So the air can flow through And this one looks like looking out. So, the fritted pattern is not as obtrusive as you think, as it would immediately think. So, and so this is our concept as a substitute for the conventional horizontal louvers. And so we did some calculate. We got the engineers to do the calculation. The average office building in Malaysia uses about 210 to 250 kilowatt hours per square meter per annum. That's the first bar there. So this building uses about 35 or 30, I can't read, 36. So we have about 60%, saving in the facade. And here it is, as the west facade is angled. And then these are the axes that guide our design. The long one is the boulevard that goes all the way up to the Prime Minister's office on the top. And then in the middle, there is a plaza designed by Hijaz Kasturi. And then the plaza has an axis that cuts across down to the Millennium Monument, which is also designed by us. So this axis is the one that cuts in between the two chevrons. So, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, okay. So this is the chevron. You can see the axis that goes from the plaza in between the two chevrons down to the Millennium Monument, which is at the bottom on the right-hand side. And then, of course, there's this famous bridge on the far right. And so here's the axis. You can see the Wawasan Plaza designed by Hijaz. And then there's axis going down, all the way down on left to the monument on the far left. So the monument was, again, a competition. They invited 5 parties to do the competition, 3 architects and 2 artists, and one of the architect competitors, Urbanisma, and the other one is Hijaz Kasturi, and the other 2 are artists. And so we designed it as what Dato Lim Chok Kiat called prismatic. That means from all angles it looks good. So we made it almost a symmetrical design. But at that time, the objective was to make Malaysia a developed country by 2020 something. So we divided into that segment so that every time we reach a certain stage in our history, we change a section. And then we have a ramp on the bottom. And so, which is glass panels, which tells us the story of the country from independence up to the date the Millennium Monument was built. And these were the Ministry of Finance buildings done by Kame American from GDP. And, my goodness, a lot of buildings there. That's why I can afford a sports Porsche car, That's my friend Camille. Anyway, the cultural reference is the hibiscus flower. And the starman is the spine. On the right-hand side, you can see the ramp that you can climb up to the top of the building with glass panels that indicate the history of the country from the time we got independence. So now back to this biological structure again. How do you apply this biodiversity matrix to the high rise? Medium rise is reasonably easy. And so what sort of faunal species that we want to attract? So we took the tree structure pattern and then we opened it up into a series of pods which become communal spaces. So architecture is not just designing apartments, but also creating pleasurable spaces for people. And so these are places where people in that floor can go out, they can commune, they can have parties there, they can just relax and look out and enjoy the scenery and the surroundings. This building has just been completed, and we should get CCC within a month's time. Now, first thing we do is to look at what sort of site is the site. It's not a pristine site. It's already been contaminated. It's going to be devastated by human beings. You can see the top pattern showing all the the buildings that surround it. So and then the second drawing shows the green areas nearest to the site, and so we use these as guides to identify the faunal species and the flora species we want to bring back to location. And so now this is the tree pattern. It's not the spiraling one. This building has only a main facade, so we call it the tree of life. And that the idea was to see what flora we can bring in, and then for lower floors we try to bring in butterflies and dragonflies, songbirds in the middle areas, and migratory birds on top. So these became the strategic biodiversity approach for the project. So this is how we applied it, how to apply the biodiversity approach that you saw earlier on for the Putrajaya project applied to high-rise. And we wanted to create the rooftop as a pleasure zone. And that's, for me, a crucial aspect of architecture, which is to make people happy. You know, we can design buildings which look, very funky, buildings that look deconstructivist. But if it doesn't make people happy, it does nothing for society. A few weeks back, I was in Moscow, and there was a panel discussion, and the topic for discussion was whether we should design Moscow to follow the traditional Russian architecture, make it modernist, make it deconstructivist. So the fact came to me, well, Ken, what do you think should be the architecture for Moscow? I said, doesn't matter too much what it looks like. It's like telling a person they all should dress the same. We all dress differently. We all have different ways of looking good. But the most important thing about architecture is to make people happy. If any of your projects makes the users happy, your whole purpose in life as an architect is fulfilled, because this is what exactly you've done. You've contributed to society. And so this is the rooftop of the building, and it is, I call it the pleasure zone. It gives pleasure to people and has 4 pools. It has the lap pool, which is number 1, has a children's pool, which is number 2, and you have to keep the children's pool as far away from the lap pool as possible, because children, once they see the parents in the big pool, they want to join them. That's when they get drowned. 3 is the family pool, the 4th jacuzzi pool, 5 is the entertainment terrace, 8 and 7 are the entertainment terraces as well. 6 is the amphitheater, where you can have continuous films if you cannot sleep. For those of you who've been to Taiwan, the largest bookshop outside in the plaza, they have continuous videos shown of old films, so that you cannot sleep. You just go to that building and you can watch films. So this is the pleasure zone. But we go back to 1985, and this was the first building we did in Taman Tun. It was occupied by IBM, so we had the blue lines going across, and the vegetation climbs up on the right-hand side. But it doesn't exactly join. I have a trellis in between the planted boxes. And so this was first experiment back in 1985. And this is about 86, we completed the Bowster building. This time we had a series of sky courts, like that patchy relationship on the left-hand side. This is the floor plate, and the idea was that we had terraces at the corners. Now, the terraces are outside the plot ratio. So the client, if they wanted to, they can fill up the terraces. They get an extra, 8% of the built-up area. But we started to explore the idea of the bioclimatic skyscraper, where the building is designed to respond to the climate. So you can see the div lobby. As soon as you get out, you can see out. It's naturally ventilated. The escape stairs on the left-hand side and right-hand side are naturally ventilated. The toilets ventilated, and the service lift lobby is naturally ventilated too. And so this was done 1986. was the continuation of the series of experiments we have. Then we look at what happens if you put the core position in the middle of the floor plate, and if the floor plate is angled and you have north and south. And so for the tropics, because the sun is from the east down to the west, we put the core on the east and the west side that you can see the red square, uses the lowest air condition requirements for the buildings. So this was the beginning of the idea of the climate responsive skyscraper. And on top left-hand side, you can see the sun path for Kuala Lumpur. We are 2.9 degrees above the equator. The sun is most 1/3 of the days on the east, and 1/3 of the days on above, and 1/3 of the days on the west. So these are the two facades you need to consider. Well, in 1992, we did the Messiniaga building, and we wanted to experiment with the idea of sky courts. So you have 3-story sky courts. The steps this way all the way up to the top of the building, and you can see on the right-hand side the different sky courts, which steps all the way up. And the middle diagram shows the sky courts, and the left-hand side is the sky courts with the sun shading. So then we thought, how do we green the interior? So we started to look into what research has been done. On the right-hand side, on the red square, are all the plants that absorb the pollutants in the interior. So on the left-hand side, the pollutants, even people, use aftershave lotion and perfume is considered, it affects the indoor air quality, and we'll try to relate the pollutants to the plants. So this became, if you like, a way of designing the interior. And this is the Australian Embassy conference room. We use peace lily to absorb the pollutants from the interior. This is office building in Klang, and here we put the greenery on the inside, weaves its way to the top of the building and to the roof garden. And this is a scheme we designed in Gyeonggi in Korea, where we put not just a green wall, but also green terraces in between. Now, what nature does for us is that it provides ecosystem services. If you look at the left-hand side, you can see number 4 would be provision. Ecosystem services are what nature does without human intervention. It is free, and it is the ecosystem services that makes our planet healthy. Now, if you look at the middle column, I'll talk about replication, augmentation, and emulation. But it has been clear to me that there's no way that technology can compete with nature. We can try and imitate as much as we can, but at the end of the day, nature wins hands down, because it can do it at a scale that technology cannot compete without using huge amounts of energy. And so what do? So in the middle column, if you cannot compete, you cooperate with them. I call it augmentation. And so, for instance, nature, through photosynthesis, generate energy. Through the plants sequestered pollutants. So this, if you like, is a list of ecosystem services that nature does for us for free. We can imitate because we just don't have the technology for doing this. If we can do artificial photosynthesis, we cannot do it at the scale that nature does it. So the solution I had was that if you can't beat them, join them. Make use of nature to provide ecosystem services to your urban areas. And so, for instance, we look at New York, the Central Park is so far away from southern New York. It doesn't work. So for ecosystem services to work, you have to bring the greenery as close to the urban areas as you can, as you can see in the diagram on the right-hand side. And so we cannot, it doesn't work by having it too far away. So the solution is to weave the greenery with the urban areas like two clasped hands. And so this is a scheme we designed for an island, a master plan for the island of La Réunion, which is east of Madagascar. And you can see that we collect all the species along the waterfront, bring it across in a series of fingers into the inside of the land, and then on the outside is the urban areas. So in other words, the greenery is about 30 meters between one and the other. So this provides ecosystem service by proximity to the urban areas. So this was the concept. I call it augmentation because you cannot replicate it, make use of the greenery to to provide ecosystem services, photosynthesis, phytoremediation, hydrology control, and so forth. And so this is the area view. The yellow shows the green fingers that climbs up to the facade. I mean the plan of the site. Then this is this is the urban fingers that go out. Now I have a road going across horizontally, so we don't want to cut the greenery. So we call it the eco undercroft. That means the greenery goes under the road. As you can see in this diagram, on the right-hand side, you can either have eco bridge, so the greenery goes above the road, eco undercroft goes below. Now, species don't like pristine edges, and so the greenery should not be straight and pristine because they want it to be serrated. Then they can hide, they can breathe, they can feed. So the edges should be serrated so that it is good for species. So now next thing comes water, because water is extremely important because when astrologers look up into the sky, look at the planets, the first thing they look for is signs of water. If there is signs of water, there's signs of organic life. And so water is absolutely important in everything we do. I was talking to a client of mine, says if you don't have electricity at home, you can tolerate it. But if you don't have water at home, it's hell. And so water is crucial to what we do. And so this is a scheme, a master plan we did for a site in Bangalore, forest reserve on the right-hand side. And so this was the master plan. This was shaped, so the greenery goes right across the site. And this is the hydrology, the water that flows through in terms of the drainage, in terms of supply. But the black squares show the detention ponds. So the rainwater that harvested, it collects at detention ponds. We try and recycle the water as much as we can within the building. Those we cannot, we bring outside, and we put in constructed wetland and bring it back into the ground, rather than go into the drains. Because if the water falls on the surrounding buildings onto an impervious surface, it goes to a drain, goes to drains, goes to rivers, goes to the sea, that's gone forever. And so the principle is to keep the water that falls on the land. And these are different ways of bringing it into the land. You can have rain gardens, you can have water pits and so forth, bioswales. And so this is the construct wetland so that the black water is not mechanically treated. It's treated through a series of filtration ponds so that as it flows from one pond to the other pond to the last pond, it automatically becomes purified. So this is the ecological way to treat black water rather than through mechanical means. And so this is the scheme. We try and bring this greenery across the site so that the greenery reconnects the forest reserve with surrounding sites. And so this is what we should be trying to do as the ecological architect or green architect, is to reconnect nature that human beings have fragmented. And so this is the greenery system. Then I start to lay out the roads. We says, oh dear, the roads cut my greenery. And so the idea was then to, whenever a road cuts across the greenery, we have eco bridges so that the greenery is continuous, and that this brings the greenery continuous over the landscape. This is not cut and chopped up in the way that it should be done. And so then we look at energy, because human society is addicted to energy. We cannot survive without energy. So what can we do? We should stop using fossil fuels because fossil fuels contaminate the environment. And so this is my approach. I call this the wedge approach for low energy design. The first approach is what I call passive mode. Means make the building low energy through proper orientation, through facade design, through natural ventilation, in as much as possible. That's the first stage. Second is to through mixed mode, try and keep the environment comfortable without using full mode, which is full mechanical electrical systems. Then a third would be the mechanical electrical systems, but make use smart systems so that it is low energy and low embodied, not just low energy in operation, low energy in embodiment. And then the fourth is productive mode, where you generate your own energy, renewable sources. And finally, a lot of people try to design, this net zero energy. Go beyond that. Design to have surplus energy that you can give back to the grid. So to me, this is, if you like, a wedge concept for designing a low energy building. So the first example is the idea of putting a canopy over a building. This was done in 1985. And the canopy is actually a concrete canopy that lets in the morning sun, keeps out the afternoon sun in the midday, and keeps the afternoon sun. And this measurement was done by a university researcher. Outside would be about 35 degrees. Around the pool, which would be about 32.6. Ground floor, 30.5. The bedroom area is 30.6. And the roof is 33.8. So these are, if you like, calculated figures. But it is not the same as a full mode building. I don't know if you know that the latest trend in Singapore now is that most interiors are designed to be 23 degrees, and they're trying to promote do your interiors at 25 degrees, and so that this conserves energy in Singapore. And so but as you can see, there's no way passive mode can compete with full mode. We are still 5 degrees short of 7 degrees short of ideal temperature. And the swimming pool on the southeast side becomes an evaporative cooling device. It cools the air before it enters the living space. On the right-hand side is the building next to its neighbors. And so we thought, well, that's the idea of a canopy building. What happens if we do it over a railway station? This was for the Xiong'an station, which is in the new capital city for Beijing. And this is the ticketing hall. And we did the competition for the University of Malaya, and for some reason or other, they gave us the prize, but they didn't build it. Anyway, we took the fritted glass pattern from the other one, we put it horizontally now, and so it became a canopy for the university hub. And this is the master plan for the entire university, and the hub is at the bottom left here. We're trying to look at design green facades. This is for a project in Delhi. And we did the Calvary Convention Center. And this time we wanted to have an operable roof that can open. And so, here it is. You can see part of the roof is enclosed. You can open to let the light in and to have natural ventilation. And this is what it looks like from the inside. You can see the operable roof open up. It's a 7,000-seater, so from the last seat down to the front, you can still have eye contact with the pulpit. Now, best way to summarize energy design is through this diagram. In a cold climate like in UK, which is 52 degrees above the equator, you have a cold winter and a hot summer. So that's the blue dotted line. Now, bioclimatic design means designing with climate of the place. You can improve the comfort conditions, so that's the white line, but you cannot ever reach the red line, which is consistent temperature, humidity that engineers tell us we should be designing. it's a waste of energy because you don't need to have that level of comfort throughout the whole year. Then with mixed mode means using ceiling fans and wall fans, you can further improve the comfort condition. So that's the yellow dotted line. And you can see with ceiling fans and side throw fans, you can actually create the comfort conditions considerably. And for the convention center, the plaza, we use that big fan you can see on the top right, which is called the big ass fan. And that creates comfort condition through forcing air into the human body. And this is the scheme where the client wanted to convert an air-conditioned floor plate into naturally ventilated. So on the right-hand side, on the red circles are where the fans are located. And we have natural ventilation windows on the side. But for a cold climate, like in UK, this is the Great Ormond Street Children's Hospital we did back in 2009. We put a second wall, called the flue wall, over the first wall. And we have a valve on the bottom and a valve at the top, so that because of the difference in temperature between outside and inside, there's a buoyancy that once it's open on the top, it sucks the air out. Now, this cannot work in the tropics because the inside temperature and outside temperature is almost the same. But here, because of the difference in temperature, we create this flue wall, and so so that this only works not in the winter, not in the summer, in the mid-seasons, which is spring and autumn. And so it sucks the air up through, and the lower 3 floors, which is occupied by Walt Disney, where we don't need to cool in the winter, heat in the winter to have to cool in the summer. So this is a flue wall for the temperate zone. And so, as I mentioned earlier on, outside temperatures, winter, climatic design, such as, on the right-hand side of the passive mode strategies, shaping the building form, proper orientation, proper configuration, by facade design, by optimizing the ambient energies, by natural ventilation. This is mixed mode. This is full mode, which is smart systems. This is productive mode. And so productive mode, we did this data center in Cyberjaya. It's just been completed. We put photovoltaics on the roof. Now, a lot of people sort of faked photovoltaics. They put photovoltaics on the roof. But for photovoltaics to work, it has to be at least 58% of your gross floor area. But if you just fill the roof with photovoltaics, there's no way you can get 58%, so we had to extend it over the building line. So when people talk about putting photovoltaics in the building, you've got to increase the photovoltaic area to 58 to 60%. So the building's completed now. You have a green wall, photovoltaics. Now finally, remember I had this diagram of humans. So we have to design green spaces to make people happy. Now this is the theory that I'm working on with the neuroscientists. She thinks this is a jolly good idea. You see, when people are happy, the brain emits certain hormones, oxytocin, endorphin, dopamine, and serotonin. Now, how does the brain secretes these hormones? Through certain activities. So from hormones, we try to identify activities, what are the special requirements, and we use this as a plan for designing to make people happy. So I'm going to end now. These are the key takeaways. Don't forget, you have to learn ecology if you want to be a green designer. Ecosystems consist of biotic and abiotic constituents acting together to form a whole, where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. This, in a nutshell, summarizes what's our current condition, how we can be rescued, what action to take, and why we have to take this action. These are the summary of the key factors in ecological design. We have designed for humans, hydrology, nature, energy, and built systems. These are different patterns in which we can integrate habitats into built form. These are the ecosystem services that we have to try and augment and replicate as much as possible. But this is an important diagram because it tells you or tells me that making the built environment green, you're not going to achieve it by just doing green buildings. No matter any number of green buildings you put into a city, if its infrastructure is not green, the city will never be green. So to make a city green, it starts with infrastructure, your energy systems, your water, your sewerage, your IT systems, your mobility systems must be all green. If it's not green, no matter any number of green buildings you put in, the city will never become green. This is a diagram. We start to list down some of the things we put in. And that, so I'm going to end a minute. This is what we all should be doing. We should be redesigning, making our cities green. Now, those of you who have children would have watched Sesame Street. Sesame Street has a frog called Kermit. Do you know the song Kermit sings? It's not easy being green. Thank you.
You're Dr. Ken Yeang. Now we invite Architect Jethro to come on stage. And we're going to have a quick and short Q&A. Any questions that you want to ask Architect Jethro, Dr. Ken Yeang, you can scan over on Slido and the questions will be answered. We want to try to end in half an hour, so let's keep the questions coming and we will answer as much as we can. Architect Zee, can you join me on stage?
That was silly. You must come and do some.
So we also accept questions from the floor. If you have any questions right now, you can raise your hand and we'll be keeping an eye out to answer. Okay, scan away, guys.
Oh, you.
Oh, click. Okay, got it. Okay, let's start with a question on the floor. Anyone have questions before we move on to Slido? Okay. All right. Okay, we have. Do you want to show the questions? Okay, yes, sure. Okay, can we project the questions? Oh, I cannot project. Okay, okay. So, the first question, let me pick. There's a scale policy making and also design theory, green design theory in practice. Why hasn't Malaysia caught on? Can we start with Dr. Ken Yeang first and then maybe Architect Jethro want to add on? Okay, Ken.
Why hasn't Malaysia caught on? I don't know. Yeah, it's not an architectural question. It's a influencer question, and there are many reasons. Do schools of architecture teach ecology? No. So how would you know, how could we caught on? Because you don't know enough ecology, you're not eco-literate. So that's the first reason. Second is the government supporting it, because they're the most powerful people in any country. Politics is the art of the possible. But no, We have our green building index, and that's about it. And so there are many things that can be done, but it's not beyond my capability. To me, I can only change the world by example. So I just, I do as much as I can. I write books about it, and hopefully the people pick it up. The best I can do. So if you believe and you think that something should be done, go out and do it. Be an influencer. Be a social activist. Change the environment. Change the schools of architecture. Change change the curriculum of schools of architecture. That's what you should be doing. Anyway, if you don't mind, it's much of fun telling you architectural stories. So I'm going to tell you a few stories. One of my good friends is Kishore Kurokawa. He's the architect for the KLIA. So at that time, I was a graduate student. I was a graduate student in Cambridge. And Charles Jenks, the famous author, critic, and architect who invented postmodernism, called me up, says, Ken, come down to Portobello Road where I live because I'm having Mr. Kurokawa for tea. Come and meet him. So I said, oh, okay. I drove all the way down. We had tea. Then after tea, Mr. Jenks says, Dr. Jenks says, why don't you take Mr. Kurokawa to Heathrow Airport, divert your car a little bit so before you go back to Cambridge? I said, I could do that. And so here I am, my little Fiat, and Kurokawa sitting next to me, silence because I met him for the first time. And then he wanted to converse with me. He said, Ken, I can tell a person's architecture by looking at his face. I said, oh, come on, Mr. Kurokawa. So look at Philip Johnson. Philip Johnson does a sophisticated building, and his face is very sophisticated. I said, well, that's tenuous. And look at Paul Rudolph. Paul Rudolph has a crew cut, has very chunky features. He does off-form concrete buildings. I said, Mr. Kurokawa is a little bit better. But look at Mr. Fuller. He does all these domes, and he's bald. So that's Mr. Kurokawa. So then he invented metabolism in the 60s, him with Isozaki, Mr. Maki, and a few others. Mm-hmm. And so the English people were very taken in by him. Metabolism. Now fast forward 30 years, the British people are now unforgiving. This journalist wrote a 3/4-page article about Kurokawa, criticizing him, saying that this metabolism doesn't work. And it's worse. He said, what sort of person has named like Kurokawa, Kishore Kurokawa? It's like opening a cold can of beer.
Okay, Dr. Ken is actually a friend of Kishore Kurokawa, so it's actually a funny joke.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Ken, I'm going to ask the next question to Architect Jethro.
Sorry?
The same question to you, I'm going to ask Architect Jethro. Jethro?
Oh,
yes, okay. He has a mic. Okay, Architect Jethro, the design theory in practice about Malaysia catching up.
Okay, just to clarify, the design practice, if you are talking about green and ecological, I believe Dr. Kenya has answered. Dato Kenya has answered. But if you're talking about design theory in other aspects, like, for example, is the building symmetrical? I mean, those kind of design theories, then I believe to a certain extent that leads to visually better designs. So I think those are caught on because you can't be selling an ugly building, right? But if you're talking about things like green and things that are more ecological, from my point of view, I believe that our country is not earning enough to afford these kind of things. Okay, end of the day, it becomes like the client can't afford it. Okay, even if you want to, or at least most of the clients can't afford it. Okay, so I don't. What Dato Kenya says is true. It becomes an influencers sort of question. These are questions you should be asking the government and influencers and these kind of people. The architects are not in full control of the industry or the economy. Okay, we are just one of the players inside.
You know, there's a very famous American-Chinese architect called I.M. Pei. I.M. Pei got the RIBA gold medal. So I said to my friends, well, I got to buy him lunch. So I took him to a Chinese restaurant off Grosvenor Street, North Alton Street, called Princess Garden. He was there with his wife and Peter Murray and a few other people. Wife came up to me and whispered in my ear, he's over 80 years old, do you know Ken? I said, oh yes, you know. Anyway, we were chatting and talking about architecture. And then he turned to me, because his generation don't know green architecture, don't know ecological architecture. So he asked me, Ken, what sort of architecture do you do? And I said, Mr. Pei, I do green architecture. So he asked me, what exactly is green architecture? Now, you just heard my lecture, which took about 40 minutes. I'm not going to spend 40 minutes over telling him, Mr. Pei, what is green architecture? I said, Mr. Pei, 3 coats of green paint. So I can continue to tell you stories, you know.
Okay, well, we have time to catch up too. We're just going to go through a little bit more questions, Ken.
Any other questions?
Anybody
it's much
from...
interesting talking about stories than what, you know.
Let's go another session.
I just finished this story about Mr. Kurokawa. One day I was in Tokyo with David Tay. We're in the car. We're passing this huge hotel in Akasaka called the Akasaka Prince Hotel. And Mr. Kurokawa asked David, what do you think of that hotel? David says, well, it looks modernist, looks quite nice. And Kurokawa frothed in his mouth, you know. He said, that's project supposed to be my project. Then Mr. Tange went to the client and says, I'm the father of modern Japanese architecture. I'm going to die soon. Give me that project. So the client says to Mr. Kurokawa, I'm so sorry. I have to give the project to Mr. Tange because he's older and he's going to die soon. And Mr. Kurokawa said, he took the project from me. He finished the project and he's still alive. Anyway, sorry.
All right, okay, we're going to ask the next question. We actually have, I'm not sure why we can't project it. Yeah, we have a lot of questions here. Sorry, the top one. Okay, the questions for Ken, Dr. Ken. Is there any way to have lush greeneries in large buildings that require minimal maintenance? Since this is always the barrier for me to implement.
Maintenance. I think that you have to use self-maintaining material. You wouldn't believe it. I just arrived from Beijing this morning at 2 o'clock. And there was this Chinese architect who does incredible buildings. His name is Mr. Song. He teaches at Tsinghua University. And his buildings are composite of concrete, timber, and other material, you know, incredible, beautiful buildings. But at the end of the day, if you have a car, you have to look after it. You cannot leave the car outside and assume that it's going to be clean by itself. So if you have a building, you have to look after it. You must tend to it. And Malaysia has the worst reputation for keeping our buildings clean and operable. I don't know whether you saw the news report yesterday about the fire in Bukit Kiara. The building, you know, the fire system doesn't work. You know, there's no alarm system. You know, we just don't look after the systems in our building. And, you know, completing a building, you have to get it commissioned properly. If you don't get it commissioned, it's not going to function after people take over. You know, I was in Bangkok some time back, At that time, I was president of ACASIA, the Asian Council of Architects. So we're sitting around the table, presidents of each of the different institutes from Taiwan, from China, from Bangkok, from Thailand, Singapore. But we're all about the same level, except Mr. Marquis, Mr. Fu Mahiko was on the table. So I said, oh dear, here's somebody who got the Pritzker Prize and here us down here. Now, the Japanese have a very tenuous relationship with the Koreans. You got to remember that Japanese occupied Korea for a long time. And so one of the participants is Dr. Lee from Korea, who's usually a very effervescent, cheerful and chatty person. He was very serious. He said to Mr. Marquis, I want you to ask you a question. So he said, Mr. Marquis, what do you think of Korean architecture? I said, oh dear, we have a minefield here. You step in the wrong step and you get your foot blown off. Mr. Marquis, the wise man that he is, says, doesn't matter what I think. You have to be your own worst critic. In other words, if somebody praises your architecture, it doesn't go to your head because you know your own worst critic, you know what's wrong with your work. If somebody criticizes your architecture, you don't get hurt because you're your own worst critic. In other words, criticize yourself worse than anybody else. And you'll never get big-headed, you'll never get hurt with what people say about your architecture. That's from Mr. Marquis. And then everything leveled after that, The conversation becomes normalized.
Okay, there's also another question from the floor. That how do you see AI influencing ecological architecture and sustainable design in the future? Have your office implement any AI in terms of your design?
I think both of you can answer. Who will go first? Yeah.
I believe AI is taking over a lot of fields. Okay. In terms of ecological architecture, I believe AI does give you pretty general answers. Okay. I'm not sure whether it's fair to say that whatever Dr. Yeang can say, AI can say, but Dr. Yeang has a lot of images to convince you. AI doesn't yet. Okay. But point form, they do come out, things like that. But to implement it, again, if we as architects find it hard to implement it, I mean, how does AI, where do AI stand to implement it? Okay, but don't be too confident because AI can sweet talk a lot of people. Okay, some people think that AI is their girlfriend. Okay, that'll be that. So if you say you want to get AI to convince the government to do something, it is possible. Okay. In terms of whether we implement it in our work or not, things like, for example, I do things like if I have a roof, how many square meters, and then calculate for me when, by installing photovoltaic, when I can achieve ROI. Okay. So this kind of prompt, they can actually give you how much is your roof area, how many percentage is efficient. The total efficient area is just, for example, just only 80%. Okay, from there you can fit how many photovoltaics. One photo is what size times for example, 1 meter times 2 meters like that. Then they will fit everything in. They didn't come up with a diagram, but in the end they came up with a calculation. You get how much photovoltaics, you get how much sun, based on Malaysia, you get how much sunlight, and then and in the end, one day you get how much, one whole year you get how much, how many years to ROI. Okay, so we do this kind of calculations. Okay, they even tell you the TNB rate is how much. Okay, in AI. So simple things like this. Okay, we haven't come to the point where we input into a software they came up building all green like that. Haven't yet. Okay, but in time, if architecture is profitable, someone will do it, I guess. Okay. So that's my point of view.
Well, actually, AI, some people say AI is plagiarism, automated plagiarism. Because when you ask AI a question, it does a very good field search and gives you the answer. But it has been very helpful for me. For instance, well, I would ask AIs, what is photosynthesis? And it gives you really thorough and talks about the latest things. My work is about constructed ecosystem. It says, oh, this ecosystem has the following properties. So it actually gives you a lot of useful answers, but limited to what you can get from its own search. But the other day I met somebody, a friend of mine, who says that if you just do a sketch, and the AI can convert it into a wonderful perspective with details. It's amazing. That's what my friend Jethro here can do. And AI can be a really, really helpful thing, to improve your work. It can do a lot of things for you, actually. So but you have to know what its limitations, what it can do, what it cannot. For instance, if you have a certain architectural style, the AI can imitate it and develop it, advance it, and it's done that for me, for some of our projects. Just like what Jethro has done, it produces 4 or 5 alternatives, and within 20 minutes. Which would take a normal architect maybe about a week or 2 just to do one. Well, the AI can do several in a very short period of time. So it's some people say it's automated plagiarism. It steals from all sorts of people and put it together. But I think, like everything else, you have to coach it and engender it. Then it gives you the output that you want. So I'm still experimenting with it, and helps me a lot with my research work. It's like AI is like a automated version of Google, a better version of Google, a better version of Wikipedia. You can, of course they have group ChatGPT, you have Gemini, you have, can't remember the name of the visual one. There's so many different ones. They're all competing with each other. I think it's a wonderful tool if you know how to use it.
And also related to the AI, what are your thoughts on the future of AI in architectural education? Could students relying on AI for designing losing their critical thinking and drawing skills? What's your thought on that?
Good question.
Oh, I've been asked this before, actually. I come from a generation whereby we went through all the shit and suffering, okay? And I think that builds character, that builds endurance, that builds a whole lot of things that you require that to do architecture. I mean, if you can't even wait for 20 minutes, you want to wait for your BP submission, okay? So that is character building, okay? You need to go through all the things for character building. And in terms of skill, okay, I believe that you cannot fully rely on AI in the sense that I don't do anything, I just prompt and then came out all the concept and the images. I would like to see AI as something to assist us at the moment, okay? I mean, it's only as good as that. And to put in an analogy, like for example, the bird is, when a bird perches on a branch, okay, it is confident that it is there and safe, not because the branch will not break, but it is because it is confident of its own ability to fly, okay? So if he's on the branch, anything happen, worst case scenario, he can fly. And the branch break, he can fly. So it's not because it's there, because, the branch is steady, so I'll be there, okay? Now, so AI is just that branch, okay? But you yourself, the ability to fly is something that you have to develop it strongly for yourself, okay? It will reduce a lot of redundant and unnecessary or repetitive works, but it shouldn't replace us at the moment, okay? But for those who are really weak, yeah, it does help a lot.
I was reading an article about AI applied to architecture. AI cannot still write full specifications for buildings the way a quantity surveyor or architect writes. You can have little bits of that, but you can never get that level of detail that an architect does. So there are limitations to applying AI to architecture. So this was the article I read.
Hello? Oh, okay. So I think we want to actually ask anyone on the floor. If you actually have questions, we have 16 questions here. Most of it is about policy making and about biomimicry and tropical climates material. But I think we're gonna pick one last one and open one to the floor. So if you actually ask questions, you can ask here straight away. The one that I'm gonna pick as our last question from Slido is a bit interesting about what questions to both of you. Which building you designed that is your favorite, and which is the one that you like the most? It's here on the Slido, so I'm gonna ask the easy one.
I've been told that the standard answer is my next building is my favorite one. Okay, I mean, that doesn't answer the question. I'm still new in practice, and I mean, 10 years, how many buildings can you build in 10 years? I mean, nothing compared to Dato Yeang. That would mean my answer is not actually important. Okay, so it's probably the one where you see the blind box. It's the recently completed. It's something that that at my own capacity, at my own firm's capacity, we actually got the project and we actually run it and go through all the hard stuff for it. Yeah, that would be my, because it's personal. I mean, it's something that is of my own. Okay, yeah, that's my answer.
Well, it's like asking a mother if you have 4 children, which one do you love most? And the mother would say, I love each one of my children in a different way. So I like all my buildings, each of them in a different way. But one day, there was one building I absolutely hated. It took me several years to like the building. So I went to think back. I said, why did I hate that building? Then it occurred to me, the client was nasty to me.
Which is your favorite then? Anyone?
No, as I said, I like each one in a different way. Okay, but they're all experimental, so they push an idea a little bit further, another little bit here. So I like each one in a different way.
All right, okay. So any questions from the floor? Can we have one question from the floor? Anyone? Yes, no? Shazwan? No questions. Okay, all right. We're going to show the questions on maybe Ken's Instagram. So Ken has an Instagram. It's called Ken_YEANG. So we're probably going to answer the rest of the questions there. You can follow, or maybe we also have an email list. If you want to be on our email list, you can let us know, and then we can update you on the answers to the questions. All right, Zai, passing to you.
Okay, thank you once again to our speakers for sharing their insightful presentations and thoughts today. So before we